Okay, today we're going to be going through how to service your tripod. This is any tripod that you have that's got a ball head, some decent legs. I'm talking about your cheap tripods, but anything you spent about 4,000 to 12, 13,000 Rand on, a decent tripod that you want to service. I recommend doing a service about once a year. This is separate from going to seascapes and then just rinsing off your legs or getting any grit out after you've gone to a seascape. So I do recommend after you do anything with salt water or grit in that, you just rinse it off with a hose pipe when you get home with fresh water, and that'll just maintain it a little bit longer. But this is a full service. We're going to take everything apart, strip all the legs apart, take all the shims out, re-grease, and I recommend doing this about once a year if you're taking your tripod into pretty extreme environments such as seascapes, hiking on mountains, anything with salt water or a lot of sand or grit, desert scenes. This is a good service to do once a year. Otherwise, if you're not using a tripod that often, I recommend doing this about once every 2 years. Okay, checking audio's on, recording. Okay, I'm here today in Hout Bay with Tyron van der Berg, and he'll tell you a little about himself shortly. And we are in his workshop. And why are we in his workshop? Tyron, why are we here?
Because you brought me a really dirty tripod, Carl.
That is true.
As usual.
So, what do you do, Tyron?
Well, I'm going to clean it up for you, hopefully, so that everything runs smoothly for your next workshop.
So, if you're anything like me, landscape photography, I shoot 95% of the time on my tripod. I'm putting it in the sea, it's up the mountains, it's in the sand, it gets pretty dirty. And one of the biggest things I see with people is that they don't maintain or service their tripods, not because they don't want to, but they don't actually know what to do or how to take it apart. So I'm here today with Tyron. Tyron has serviced my tripod many times. He offers it as a business service that he does. So if you want in South Africa, want to get your tripod cleaned, speak to Tyron, and he's going to take us through some of the steps today of how to take apart our tripod, how to clean it correctly, and how to maintain it so that our tripod lasts us many, many years going forward.
When one leg is completely out of tension, it should stay where you put it. That's not good, so you need to fix these screws. Let's just start with stripping this guy down completely. Okay, we're going to start by taking all the legs off, and we need 2 Allen keys for that. They should come with your tripod. And basically just hold one still, turn the other one. If these are very tight, which I sometimes find on tripods is they've used the Loctite or something, the first time you break that connection is going to be quite difficult. You can see we've got some blue Loctite on here. This one is fine because I've taken it apart so many times for Kyle. Let's just not use our little shims here into the bucky and the screws in there as well. So sometimes what I like to do is I use an impact driver, and then what I'll do is I'll hold the Allen key in nice and tight, and then this will break the Loctite connection. And that's a much safer way to get your Loctite broken apart rather than snapping an Allen key. When you've taken the screw out the one side, you can just put your Allen key in and push the bolt through from the back. Take it out.
So I'm using a Leo Photo tripod at the moment, but what Tyron's showing you should be pretty generic across all tripod brands. So you can see I haven't done this in a while. That's all the corrosion and that from the sea salt shooting in the seascapes that we're going to clean up and clean off and re-put new grease onto the tripod.
So we're just going to take this screw out so we can get all these little shims apart and clean it up nicely. It's important to not lose any of these parts. And you can see there's little springs inside, but we got to clean all this junk out of here. Carl has been a naughty boy. Okay, and then all these little shims which are completely stuck in here. A lot of dirt and grime. Can't even get these out. This is all the white that you see as salt from the ocean. And that's really the most important thing to clean out. The sand will damage your threads. The salt will just corrode and get everything stuck and locked up together. Let's take everything out here. Okay, so we want to get the sand out of the inside here. And you can clean it out with a little toothbrush. But I have an air compressor, so I'm just going to blast it out.
You can also use a compressor in a can, some compressed air, and you just want to blow out any visible dust or grit out of all the holes.
Make sure you're wearing eye protection when you're doing this. So once you've cleaned all the sand and grit out of your ball head and it's not grinding anymore, you can use some lubricants like WD-40 or Q20 will work well. Just spray a little bit onto a cloth, let it soak in a bit, and then what we're going to do now is just put that on the ball head just a little bit. And we're going to rub it all in. Make sure you rotate it and get it in nicely. Just a really small amount. And then once we're done with that, we'll take a clean cloth. We'll take a clean cloth and then we'll just wipe off all the excess. Make sure we're rotating the ball head to get all of that extra stuff off. And there you go. That'll run nice and smooth again now. We need to clean the tripod, the base plate lock. Now you can see all the sand and grit in here. So we'll just brush all of that out. Get this nice and clean. Once we've got all the grit out of here, we can get a little bit of our cleaning fluid. We're going to use some clean green. Put a little bit onto a cloth and give it a nice wipe down and get rid of all that residue. And we'll just pinch it to get into the dovetail groove. And there we go, nice and clean again. And then same for the other part. Okay, so we're going to clean these little copper shims now. You can see they're quite caked up in old grease and sand and salt. This one's got a little bit of corrosions on it, which is not good because your legs are rubbing against that. So we're going to use some brown vinegar. Just get a little bit on the cloth. And we're going to just soak this guy and rub it quite firmly. We use the brown vinegar is good for getting rid of sea salt as well. So if you have a lot of sea salt build up on your threads and your legs, you can use it on that as well to soften it up, and then go over with a toothbrush to clean them up nicely. Make sure there's absolutely no grit left in your threads, otherwise you're going to have crunching every time you open and close the legs on the tripod. So you can see this is cleaning it up nicely. It takes a while, but it's worth it in the end when you get a nice clean shim. And we'll put a little thin layer of grease back on it again before we put it back on the tripod. Just give it a little wipe off the excess, and these guys are good as new. So this has just been an ultrasonic cleaner with a little bit of brown vinegar and hot water. Okay, once you've taken your leg sections apart, the first thing you need to do is remove the shim at the top. This is a Leo photo, so instead of two separate shims like I have on the Siri, this is a single piece, and to get it out, there's two little retaining clips on the inside here that fit into holes in the leg. So what we want to do is put our fingers between these gaps here, and we're just going to massage them out a little bit sideways like that, and then slowly wiggle them left and right until it's free. and it should pop off. You can see these are the little lugs inside that fit into those holes. So once that's out, now we can take the collets or the leg lock off. What we're going to look for in here, as part of this shim, there's a gap that goes all the way through. So we're going to come in from above and below, and we're going to pull it away from the wall, and then I'm going to pinch from the bottom, and then turning anti-clockwise I'm going to pull down, and that should release the collet. So we can clean this guy in the vinegar as well, and then we'll use our toothbrush to clean out all the threads inside and all the threads on the leg.
Okay, so we're busy cleaning the feet. You can see here the feet are generally the worst part to get corroded, because that's the bit that's going to go in the sea salt all the time, and you can see all the crusted sea salt on the top there, and we just need to clean them out.
So I'm going to start with a little bit of brown vinegar. That gets rid of most of the sea salt and get it in nice into the threads. Just using some old rags here, we'll clean most of it up. And Kyle's tripod went for a proper swim how many months ago?
Sure, a few months ago.
And he didn't clean it immediately, so there's been salt water inside his legs and it started to actually rust. So we're going to use a little bit of WD-40 now as well, and we're going to use that to get rid of the rust. We'll work that in, and then I'm just going to use a little steel detail brush. You can get these at the hardware stores, and we're just going to brush that rust out. It'll take a little while, but we'll get it all nice and clean. Okay, I'm just using some regular garage grease for this. I'm filling up the slots where we have metal contacts, and I've reassembled all the shims inside here, a little layer of grease in between each one, just using a little off-cut piece of wood, and now we can reassemble this guy back in nice and tight. And just get an Allen key here, screw that guy back in, screw it in the open slot. Okay, once we've got our legs all cleaned up and the shims are back in, remember to slip your leg collet back on before you put the shim on. We want to take a bit of silicone spray, and we're just going to hit this shim at the top with some silicone spray here. Then once that's done, we can slide this back into the leg, and then after that we just need to put a little bit of our grease on the threads. So what I like to do is get a little bit amount, size of a pinky fingernail, dab it on, try and get it near the bottom of the threads, not the top, because we're just going to get some excess in there now. And then what we do is when we screw this on, that's going to take the grease into the threads, wipe our excess off. And you can see when we unravel it, the grease is packed into the threads nicely. It's going to stop any sand or grit getting inside there. The best way to make sure nothing gets in ever is when you unlock in your leg, quarter turn only. Don't unscrew it further, because then more debris can get in from the above and below. So keep it nice and tight, and then just a tiny turn. That's the best way.